that the Duke tried to sabotage the organisation before sensationally quitting earlier this week.
Well, that's not exactly the way it's been put by Sophie Chanduka. She doesn't say he's the greatest man alive, or the funniest, or the kindest. She says that Harry unleashed the Sussex machine on her in a case of harassment and bullying at scale after she tried to change things at Centre Bali. Have a listen to what she has to say.
It didn't start with a press conference, an official statement, or a polished documentary monologue. It started with a single devastating sentence from a woman the world had barely heard of. Until now. Prince Harry authorized the release of damaging internal information without warning. That one line detonated across British media and sent shockwaves through Hollywood, royal watchers, and charity circles alike. You've probably seen the headlines, but you don't know what really happened behind those headlines. What if I told you that Harry, once known as the rebel prince with a heart of gold, is now being accused of launching a full-scale harassment campaign against the very charity he founded to honor his mother, Princess Diana?
At some point on Tuesday, Prince Harry authorized the release of a damaging piece of news to the outside world without informing me, or my country directors, or my executive director. And can you imagine what that attack has done for me, on me, and the 540 individuals?
And the woman exposing him? A global heavyweight lawyer who's not backing down. But that's not even the craziest part, because this scandal isn't just about one feud, it's about whether Prince Harry has completely destroyed his last remaining link to Diana's legacy. For years, Centre Bali stood as a rare bright spot in Harry's increasingly chaotic public life. While Netflix deals, podcast flops, and family estrangements swirled around him, this small but powerful charity quietly helped vulnerable children affected by HIV and AIDS in Lesotho and Botswana. The press and public alike saw it as his one authentic cause, a passion project that transcended royal drama. But that was just what they wanted you to see. Because behind the polished Instagram posts and smiling photo ops, insiders say something far darker was brewing.
In response, a source close to the charity's trustees and patrons have called it a publicity stunt.
In the Centre Bali organizations and their family, that is an example of belief that there's such a thing as bullying. This unleashing of the Sussex machine on me and the 540 employees at Centre Bali who received this and have had
a slow-motion implosion orchestrated not by palace forces, but allegedly by Harry himself. It all came to a head when Dr. Sophie Chanduka, a Nigerian-born corporate lawyer with a resume that would intimidate any room, Mia, Morgan Stanley, international biotech firms, took over as Centre Bali's chairwoman. Chanduka wasn't interested in playing palace politics or becoming another prop in the Sussex image machine. She asked uncomfortable questions about finances, governance, and decision-making. And according to her, that's when everything changed. You think that's bad? Keep listening, because the allegations don't stop at boardroom disagreements.
Yes, two different pictures being painted here, right? So according to Sophie Chanduka, the trustee chairman of Centre Bali, and he unleashed the full-scale images and harassment of the Sussex machine on her.
Chanduka claims Harry didn't just disagree with her leadership, he actively sabotaged it. Leaked emails, back-channel communications, donors mysteriously pulling out, staff morale plummeting. And then, the ultimate bombshell, Harry allegedly unleashed what insiders now call the Sussex machine, a sophisticated, ruthless PR operation designed not to serve the charity, but to protect Harry's personal image at all costs. Staff were blindsided by hostile press leaks they had no time to prepare for. Meetings turned into whispered confessions of fear and confusion. Even senior executives reportedly started looking for the exits as the atmosphere grew toxic.
You can see the summits, it's all over, they've all gone. Look at that, empty room. I don't know if that was Yvette Cooper, who's still talking. No, she's not still talking. I mean, it lasted 10 minutes. So Keir Starmer got up, rolled up his sleeves. Yvette Cooper said, the countries are still just as close to each other as they always were, but people can move around a lot quicker now. And now they've all gone.
Dr. Chanduka's verdict was chilling. Harry hadn't just quit the charity, he had tried to burn it to the ground on his way out. You probably think this is where the story ends. You're wrong, because what happens next will shock you even more. The sabotage, the gaslighting, the explosive racial undertones, and yes, even Meghan Markle herself enters the picture in ways you wouldn't expect. Hold up, this is where it gets insane. and we're just getting started.
Sadness about the way this is going at the moment, because the people who are going to suffer are the young people of Lesotho and Botswana, where Sentabali works.
From the outside, Sentabali still looked like the crown jewel of Harry's post-royal life, a charity untouched by Montecito's controversies. But inside the organization's walls, a different picture was emerging. The tension wasn't coming from typical nonprofit growing pains, it was coming straight from the top. Dr. Chanduka, respected globally for her no-nonsense leadership, quickly identified troubling patterns. Donors being quietly discouraged from giving, fundraising events mysteriously sabotaged, board decisions suddenly overruled through back channels. And all of it, she claims, traced back to Prince Harry himself. In one striking allegation, Chanduka says Harry used his influence to torpedo a major fundraising gala, claiming scheduling conflicts while simultaneously preparing to use the event for a Netflix filming opportunity. Imagine it. A charity gala meant to help vulnerable children quietly transformed into a backdrop for a glossy streaming documentary. When venue partners found out, they pulled out immediately, unwilling to let the cause become a set piece. Most people completely missed this clue, but insiders say this was the first real crack in the facade, and things only escalated from there.
Has left. Prince Siso of Lesotho, who set the charity up with him, has left. The board of trustees.
According to multiple sources close to the board, Harry's interference wasn't accidental. It was calculated. Chanduka's insistence on transparency and good governance made her a threat to what some now describe as Harry's narrative control. Her refusal to rubber stamp decisions reportedly set off months of retaliatory chaos. Leaked board memos, donors getting cold feet after whispered warnings, and even internal meetings where staffers reportedly broke down in tears. It wasn't just a difference of opinion, it was a campaign. Remember this detail. Chanduka kept everything. Emails, meeting minutes, handwritten notes slipped across tense tables, all meticulously archived as she watched the charity she was tasked with safeguarding descend into dysfunction. You won't hear this anywhere else, but insiders say that by the time the staff realized what was happening, the damage was done. Staff morale plummeted as the lines between charity governance and Sussex brand management blurred beyond recognition. But here's where it gets even more shocking.
There was no conflict. Everything was pretty straightforward. And he can't see the allegations that you're making about poor governance in his experience. He doesn't recognize them.
While Harry was allegedly sowing chaos behind the scenes, publicly he was still preaching compassion, wellness, and integrity, the same principles he's used as the foundation of his post-royal image. This wasn't just hypocrisy, it was a contradiction so stark it left even longtime supporters reeling. One insider described the atmosphere inside Sentabali's headquarters as quiet fear, grown adults whispering like they were trapped in a high school clique war, terrified they might be next. And all of this was happening at a charity that served some of the world's most vulnerable children. What started as a principled disagreement about governance had evolved into a reputational crisis with global consequences. And the worst part? Over 500 employees across multiple countries were suddenly swept into a drama they never signed up for, waking up to media inquiries about internal charity politics while simply trying to serve their communities. It was no longer about Harry versus Chanduka. It was about an entire humanitarian mission on the verge of collapse. This is where the entire narrative takes a sharp, shocking turn, because Dr. Sophie Chanduka wasn't bluffing.
Is this characteristic, this way of doing things, do you think something to do with the fact that this was Prince Harry's charity and the people, as you say, there are people on it who were in some way beholden to him? Is that the point you're making here?
While Prince Harry's camp reportedly scrambled to dismiss the turmoil as creative differences, Chanduka came armed with receipts, real receipts. We're talking internal board minutes, emails, private WhatsApp threads, eyewitness statements, and damning documentation, all carefully preserved. This wasn't an anonymous palace aide whispering grievances to tabloids. This was a globally respected Nigerian corporate lawyer with a track record of holding billion-dollar corporations accountable. And she wasn't playing palace games, she was preparing for legal war. You've probably seen other Sussex scandals play out with vague complaints and soft-focus interviews, but this was different. Chanduka named names, cited dates, attached documents. It was a legal chess move executed with precision, not emotion. And that precision is what rattled even the most loyal Sussex supporters. Hold up, this is where it gets insane. Because according to multiple insiders, Chanduka's evidence has now landed on the desk of the UK Charity Commission, triggering a formal investigation into Sentabali itself. Imagine the stakes. A charity that once embodied Princess Diana's humanitarian legacy, now under regulatory scrutiny because of accusations that its royal patron allegedly weaponized its governance for personal image management. And the investigation isn't just looking at Harry's alleged behavior, it's uncovering cracks in the entire Sussex PR empire.
I think there's something very important about that, because when the charity was set up, it was structured in a certain way. So he was this was a young Harry, a youthful Harry that we were seeing. And his work for Sentabali earned him the respect and admiration of nations, including this nation and also the people of Lesotho.
While Meghan Markle wasn't officially named in Chanduka's allegations, her fingerprints are reportedly everywhere. Insiders describe her influence as far from passive. She was allegedly directing narratives, coordinating damage control, even stepping into moments where she had no official role. The most chilling example? During what was meant to be a routine charity photo op, Meghan, who wasn't even scheduled to appear, allegedly turned to Chanduka on the field and said bluntly, "Get out of the way." Not backstage, not in private, in front of donors, cameras, and staff. The message was unmistakable. This was the Sussex show now. But Chanduka refused to shrink. She didn't plaster on a smile or release a carefully crafted statement to paper over the tension. When Meghan's team allegedly pushed her to say publicly that she wasn't offended, Chanduka flat out refused. And here's what most people completely missed. This wasn't just a power struggle. It was about principle, about integrity versus optics. Chanduka, according to sources close to her, saw a billion-dollar brand trying to hijack a charity founded to serve children affected by HIV and AIDS, turning it into a PR playground. And she wasn't about to lend her credibility to that. The irony was almost too much to process. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, who built their brand criticizing palace toxicity and institutional silencing, now facing allegations that they had recreated the very same culture inside their own carefully curated world. The Sussex machine, it seems, didn't escape toxicity, it allegedly imported it. And with Chanduka's methodical documentation piling up and the Charity Commission digging deeper, the stakes are no longer about gossip headlines or tabloid noise. This is legal accountability. If even half of what Chanduka claims holds up under scrutiny, the fallout could destroy the last remaining shreds of Harry's credibility and take Sentabali down with it. The full weight of this scandal came crashing down when a single moment turned into a lightning rod. A routine charity event meant to showcase Sentabali's leadership devolved into something much darker. Witnesses describe a chilling scene. Meghan Markle, unscheduled, uninvited, reportedly sweeping onto the field and in front of stunned staff, donors, and cameras, commanding Dr. Sophie Chanduka to get out of the way. The remark, caught on camera and verified by multiple insiders, wasn't whispered or subtle. It was sharp, dismissive, and completely at odds with the Sussexes' carefully cultivated image of compassion and inclusion. That's not even the craziest part, because this wasn't just a one-off outburst, it allegedly revealed an entire strategy. According to insiders, the Sussex team was trying to dominate every frame, control every photo, and erase anyone who didn't fit their narrative. And Chanduka, she was never going to play along. Her refusal to stand down at that moment reportedly triggered a behind-the-scenes push to sideline her permanently. Behind closed doors, the Sussex PR machine allegedly went into overdrive, damage control meetings, urgent calls to donors, leaked briefings to friendly media outlets, a furious campaign to rewrite the narrative before it spiraled beyond their grasp. And yet, while they scrambled to preserve their image, Sentabali itself was falling apart. Corporate sponsors began pulling out quietly. Donors who had once written large checks suddenly went silent. Fundraising events were postponed indefinitely or canceled outright. And the most devastating detail? The very communities Sentabali was created to serve, the children of Lesotho and Botswana, were the ones left paying the price. This wasn't just bad optics, it was a humanitarian crisis disguised as a PR nightmare. Employees across the charity's global network were left reeling, forced to explain the unexplainable to partners, sponsors, and families who had trusted them for years. And what makes this so chilling is the human cost that's often overlooked in scandals like this. This wasn't just an awkward photo op or a corporate blunder. We're talking about real people, 540 employees who dedicated their careers to serving vulnerable children. Field workers in Botswana now reportedly out of work. Outreach coordinators in Lesotho scrambling to salvage partnerships. entire programs put on hold indefinitely, all because of a power struggle that had nothing to do with their work and everything to do with brand management and ego. The very name, Prince Harry, once a symbol of hope for Sentabali, had become a red flag for donors and partners alike. The phrase repeated in hushed conversations across the charity's offices was damning. If this is how he treats his own charity, what does that say about everything else? And it was more than just whispers now. Formal complaints were being drafted, regulatory inquiries launched, and media figures who once defended the Sussexes were openly questioning their integrity. Even British media heavyweights, who had long dismissed tabloid attacks on Harry and Meghan, were now piling on, declaring the Sussex PR empire no better than the royal institution they fled. Maybe worse, by the end of this chapter, Harry wasn't just facing negative headlines. He was facing a potential courtroom showdown. And this time, there would be no cozy interviews, no curated Netflix narratives, no podcast soundbites carefully crafted for maximum sympathy. If this escalates, and sources say it almost certainly will, Harry will find himself answering directly to a judge under oath, facing cross-examination, and staring down a stack of paperwork with his name on it. The Sussex narrative was about to be dragged into the one arena where spin doesn't work: a courtroom. You think that's bad? Keep listening, because the fallout from this disaster doesn't just threaten Harry's reputation, it threatens the future of Sentabali itself. By the time the dust began to settle, it was clear Sentabali was in free fall. The Board of Trustees, which once boasted a roster of respected names from across the humanitarian and philanthropic world, resigned in what insiders describe as a coordinated exodus. Donations dried up almost overnight. Longtime supporters who once praised the charity's mission now quietly distanced themselves. Corporate sponsors withdrew their commitments, some citing reputational risk, others simply disappearing without explanation. And while Harry's inner circle reportedly tried to patch things up behind the scenes, the damage was already done. The humanitarian organization that Harry had once positioned as his personal link to Princess Diana's legacy was now teetering on the brink of collapse. Not because of external enemies, but allegedly because of his own missteps and ego-driven maneuvers. The human cost was staggering. Across Botswana, Lesotho, and beyond, the charity's programs ground to a halt. Field workers were laid off, medical outreach teams lost funding. Vulnerable children and families, those Sentabali was built to serve, found themselves suddenly cut off from critical resources, and all because a power struggle at the top spiraled into a full-blown disaster. For employees on the ground, the atmosphere was one of disillusionment and betrayal. These were people who had dedicated their careers to serving a cause bigger than themselves, only to find themselves casualties of a reputational war waged by the very man they were supposed to trust as their champion. One former donor summed up the public mood bluntly: "Prince Harry's name used to open doors, now it shuts them." That shift didn't just reflect a PR failure, it reflected a deeper erosion of trust that may take years, if not decades, to rebuild. And what about Prince Harry himself? Insiders say that while Meghan charges ahead with podcasts, lifestyle deals, and a rumored skincare line, Harry looks increasingly detached, a man adrift without a mission. Once celebrated as the bold royal rebel who walked away from monarchy to forge his own path, he now cuts a lonely figure, his reputation battered, his credibility in tatters, and his signature charitable cause engulfed in scandal. The Sussex brand, once seemingly bulletproof, is starting to look fragile. And here's the part that no PR team can fix. While Harry may have once seen himself as a symbol of change, a man determined to rewrite the royal rulebook, he's now trapped between two worlds, no longer fully royal, but not fully Hollywood either. Not quite royal, not quite celebrity, and more dangerously, not quite relevant. But this isn't just about one man's fall from grace. The larger question now hanging over this entire saga is chilling. If this is how Harry and Meghan treat the organizations they claim to champion, what else behind their carefully curated image isn't as it seems? How much of the compassion and progressive activism was real, and how much was just branding? As one longtime supporter of Sentabali asked bitterly, if they can implode their own charity, what does that say about everything else they've sold us? That's a question the Sussexes will struggle to answer, because the narrative they worked so hard to control has officially slipped from their grasp. And in the court of public opinion, and maybe soon in an actual court, the truth will matter far more than the PR spin. So what does this all mean for Harry, for Meghan, and for the future of their carefully constructed empire? That's a story still unfolding, but one thing is certain. The world is watching, and this time, they're not buying the fairy tale.